Hi, my name is Joseph Mills, and I'm here with my colleagues Savin, Amrit, and Harry, and we are presenting as Group 55 on the topic, the Bhopal gas tragedy. The Bhopal gas tragedy occurred on the night of December 2nd to 3rd in 1984 in Bhopal in India, when 40 tons of methyl isocyanate, which is a very toxic gas, leaked from the Union Carbide India Limited's pesticide plant. Over a short while, the gas affected the neighboring communities, and within days, we have thousands of people dying. And the survivors also suffered respiratory and neurological diseases. This tragedy could be entirely preventable because it was caused by poor maintenance and lack of skilled personnel on the part of the people. And they also ignored engineering ethics and safety protocols, which brought about this massive catastrophe. I'll now hand over to my colleague to take us through the sequence of events. So,
So here are the summary of sequence of events. Water accidentally entered a storage tank containing the methyl isocyanate, triggering an uncontrolled exothermic reaction. This marks the initial technical failure in the process system. The reaction caused a rapid rise in pressure and temperature. Safety mechanisms such as the vent scrubber and the flare tower were either non-functional or under maintenance, allowing gas to escape. Around 12:30 a.m., MIC gas leaked from the Union Carbide plant and spread across nearby residential areas, exposing thousands of sleeping residents. The gas caused acute respiratory distress, eye irritation, and widespread panic. Hospitals were overwhelmed, and there was no emergency response plan in place. The death, the death toll escalated, and surveyors began showing long term health effects, including lung, eye, and reproductive disorders. The scale of human suffering revealed severe ethical and safety lapses. The plant was shut down, and legal and environmental investigations began. Globally, they even prompted major reforms in industrial safety, regulation, and corporate accountability. So, the following slide highlights the key technical failures and ethical oversights that led to the Bhopal gas tragedy. Critical safety units like the gas scrubber and refrigeration systems were intentionally turned off to reduce operational costs, severely compromising safety. The plant's equipment was outdated, neglected, and frequently malfunctioning, showing a lack of long term care and inspection. Workers were not properly trained to manage chemical reactions or respond to emergencies, increasing the risk of human error. There were no defined response procedures or drills, leaving workers and residents unprepared when the leak occurred. Water entered a tank containing methyl isocyanate, setting off a violent runaway reaction that built up extreme pressure. The gas leaks into the air during the night, while most residents were asleep and unaware of the danger. There were no functional alarms or alert systems to warn nearby communities in time to evacuate. Thousands were exposed within hours, and local hospitals were overwhelmed by the sheer number of victims. The tragedy could have been completely avoided through basic safety compliance, regular maintenance, and ethical corporate responsibility. So, next, my colleague Amit would be taking over you to explain about the ethical dilemma, which is pertaining to the event.
Yeah, thank you. Building on that, let's now look at the ethical dilemma in this case. Ethical dilemma in the Bhopal gas tragedy, one of the worst industrial disaster in history. But more than that, it was a serious ethical failure. And the big question is, should saving money ever be more important than protecting people's lives? At the Union Carbide plant in Bhopal, safety systems like gas scrubbers and refrigeration were turned off just to save money. The equipment was not looked after. Workers didn't get enough training. There was no real emergency plan, and worst of all, the people living nearby had no warning before the gas leak. Even though the company knew the risk, they ignored basic engineering concepts, keeping people safe, being responsible, and telling the truth. According to engineering codes in Canada and the US, engineer must always put public safety first. In Bhopal, that doesn't happen. This shows what can go wrong when profit becomes more important than doing what's right. If engineers had simply keep the safety system running, maintained the equipment, and warned the public, this disaster could have been avoided. The biggest lesson from Bhopal is this: engineering isn't just about technology, it's about doing what's right. As future engineers and professionals, must remember ethics is not just a rule book, it's a mindset. We have the power and the responsibility to protect lives. The next part will be discussed by my colleague Savin.
We will now talk about our three discussion questions. Our first discussion question was, how could better engineering ethics have prevented the Bhopal case disaster? This question relates to our course topic of ethical design for safety and personal responsibility. If engineers had prioritized the importance of doing proper maintenance checks as well as safety checks and much clearer transparency, the gas leak could have been avoided. The Bhopal case disaster showed how ethical decision making can affect human safety. Our second question was, how can engineers balance corporate interests with moral responsibility? This connects to recognizing political, social, and economic influences and engineering ethic practices that were discussed in our course lectures. Engineers often face pressure to reduce costs, but maintaining proper engineering ethics requires protecting human life and the environment above profit. Of how individuals find this proper balance with corporate interest and moral responsibility was a key question explored. Our final question was, should multinational corporations be held legally responsible for overseas operations? In our lectures, we learned about ethical design for safety and professional responsibility. And with our question to explore to what extent should multinational corporations be held responsible for overseas operations? We will now dive deeper into our discussion of our first question. So, how could better engineering ethics have prevented the Bhopal case disaster? Prioritizing safety protocols as well as conducting equipment checks as well as ensuring clear transparency among workers and site conditions could have allowed engineers to prevent the gas leak. Maintaining ethical compliance, following through with engineering ethic principles, instead of prioritizing over profit, could have protected many civilians' lives. The discussion of if engineers had followed these principles and followed in better engineering professional ethics and safety standards remains to be questioned. Yet maintaining better practices and prioritizing safety of civilians over profits could have prevented this tragedy from occurring. We would like to conclude and give our final remarks regarding the Bhopal case disaster. As the Bhopal case disaster is a significant industrial failure, the neglect of the following proper engineering ethical standards caused many innocent civilians to lose their lives. This case teaches a valuable lesson that engineering at large scale corporations have a responsibility to take the safety and accountability for each of their actions, as their own decisions have serious implications. Taking tough decisions is part of an engineering's job, and ultimately the Bhopal case reminded the world why it's important to stand by engineering ethics and moral principles instead of putting personal morals and profits ahead, as similar disasters like the Bhopal case can be avoided in the future with maintaining proper engineering principles. Thank you for listening to our presentation. We hope you enjoyed listening to the Bhopal case disaster. Thank you.